Hello, 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 and welcome back to another speed draw slash story time with Boba the Blessed. For this round of stories, I wanted to discuss why grilled cheese holds a special place in my heart. As silly as it sounds, it holds an important chapter of my life, and I feel like a lot of you can relate to it. When I was younger, my family was going through a rough patch. My parents were living off of paycheck to paycheck. My dad was working long days, and he was doing everything that he could do to provide for our family. My mom was working long, hard days as well, so my sister and I were left to our own devices during this time. But on these days that were just hard patches, I remember going to Salvation Army for our next meals. From what I can recall, they sometimes had tapioca pudding, bread, and stuff to make spaghetti. One of the things that Salvation Army always had was ingredients to make grilled cheese. Thankfully, they were rather easy to make, and it was something besides spaghetti. I was a bit too young to understand the full extent of what my family was going through. But I did know one thing. I'd prefer grilled cheese over spaghetti just about any day. But when there's a decision to either eat or eat nothing, you learn to appreciate the food that you have. Luckily, my family pulled through this hardship, and my sister during this time learned how to cook for us all. She slowly figured out what flavors go well with each other. To this day, she is coming up with culinary deliciousness that make my taste buds happy. On the other hand, I do not have a single ounce of cooking capabilities in my body. I have ruined 2 boxes of mac and cheese, a box of Hamburger Helper, and have exploded boiled eggs. I was told to keep an eye on the boiled eggs, but had forgotten about them. Nothing was harmed. And I learned that if you cook eggs without water, they will pop and stick to the ceiling. Plus, I'm fairly certain that those eggs are still stuck to the ceiling when we moved out of that house. It wasn't the fact that we didn't try to clean them up, we just couldn't find a way to get them down. Luckily, I am able to cook supervised though. I make one good sous chef when my family is cooking. But if you leave me for even a second, I will somehow find a way to make a batch of cookies turn into cookie soup. I may or may not have read 2 tablespoons of milk as 2 cups. We had to freeze it in a bowl, and it still tasted the same. But when it comes to grilled cheese sandwiches, I can make those things perfectly. Plus, with some of my sister's flavor experimenting, we have found a way to make them taste even better. One of the ways is just throwing in some tomato pesto with the cheese, and it makes it like 100 times better. If you want to go even fancier than that, add some varieties of cheese and have some of that seasoned bread you'd find at the deli. So good. All of the yummy cheese possibilities. The gooey goodness shall never leave my memory. And if you mix all that with a good thing of warm tomato soup, a little bit of basil in there, basil, tomato, potato, whatever, it just makes it even better. But with that said, I'd say the moral of the story would be experiment with your cheesy bread. Who knows, maybe some pepperoni mixed in would taste good, or even some Italian seasonings. If you do end up trying this, I'd love to hear how your flavor experimenting goes. And besides the culinary deliciousness, it makes me happy to know that my family will stick with each other no matter what through these hard times. Especially knowing the size of my family, and considering that's about the size of a small army. But that's a story for another time. If you ended up enjoying the video, please like and subscribe. That way I know that you enjoy this kind of content and you can get updates for when my next video comes out. And if you want to be able to support me, I have a Patreon that I'll do a shout out for at the end of every video. But until then, I hope you all have a blessed day. Cheesy goodness.